Hello everybody, let me just take the music down. Hi everybody, welcome to CSS Escapism. My name is Amit. Hi to the guys in the chat. Hi to everybody that is joining us later on, that if you're seeing the recording someday. Hi. Here in CSS Escapism, we're here to have some fun, and today we're actually going to do something that I haven't done for a very long time. We're going to do a CodePen challenge. So let's let's go right into the browser. Yeah, and if you don't know what CodePen challenges, so this is CodePen. There's a page of challenges, and there's a new challenge every week, almost every week, 4 times a month. And this month challenges was all about CSS stunts. And they had a few 3 weeks. The first 3 weeks of the month were actually great. As I said, I haven't done it for a long time, just for no good reason actually. But I've decided I want to do one this week, and I decided before I knew what the topic was, and then they announced that the topic was CSS Mathematics. And yeah, and I love CSS, and I love to do stuff with math. So actually, this is what we're going to do today, and it's an excuse for me to do something that I've been thinking about for a very long time. So what we're going to do today is something like a dial graph. Like a dial graph that you can show a value on a conic radian. We're not going to use conic today. We're going to make it 3D. We're going to make it rotate, and we're going to add the text. And the text is also going to be 3D. We're going to play around with colors, and it's going to be weird because we're going to use a lot of calculation, because this is the whole topic of this challenge. But the nice thing is that once it's done, anyone can actually take this component and just change the custom properties, because we're going to use a lot of custom properties, and then just change the custom properties, and everything is going to change accordingly, because we're going to do a lot of calculation. So let's start. I already have a pen here, and I've done a few things to it, but one thing that I do need to add, I need to add those tags, but we're going to add it in the end, okay? Just remind me, if you're in the chat, remind me to add the tags. Okay, so what we have here, we're inside CodePen. All I have in the HTML is just a scene right now. We're going to add some things to the HTML in a minute. In the CSS, we don't have anything interesting right now, just a very basic reset. And on the body, I have just the colors, things to center everything. And I do have a perspective on the body. If you're using this as a component, just so you can set the perspective to the parent component, to the container component. I just using the body as a container component, so I'm just putting the perspective on the body itself. And actually, let's delete this. I want everything that is inside the body. This is why I'm using the wildcard. Everything that is inside the body have a transform style of preserved 3D, meaning that it's gonna preserve the perspective of the parent and the vanishing. They all have they're all gonna have the same vanishing point. Okay, so what we're gonna do? Oh, and I do have JavaScript, and I'm not going to do a lot of things in a JavaScript, but I do imported the .GUI just for this little input right here. We're going to use it to set the value of the dial graph, or I want to use it actually as a loading. You know, when you go into a website, sometimes you have a loading bar. So I want to do like a big 3D loading bar with pure CSS, which would be very light to load. So we're going to use this GUI just to set the value. So it's very simple. You just import the GUI from this CDN, you create a new one, and you have a min value, a max value, and a step that you want to use. And the current value, the starting value, I just put 30 just for the heck of it. And just now you add the data, the value, the min value, max value, the step. And then on change, you got an update data function. So this is the function. So what we need to do, actually before the function, let's add a const of dial. So document query selector dial. So actually we need to create it in the HTML. Okay. And then we can say that when the data updates, when they update data, so take the dial style and then set property, and I'm gonna set just the value to data value. So now, if we're gonna do inspect this content, inspect, yeah, okay. So we can see inside the body I have this scene, and inside of the scene I have the dial that I put in, and I have the style, I have the value right here, and when I change this value, I change this custom property. And that's it, that's all we're going to do with the JavaScript, just set the custom property, and then we're going to do a lot of calculation in the CSS to deal with this custom property. So let's go to our CSS, and let's have a dial class, and excuse me, I have to put on all my notes. Oh, here. Okay, so the dial obviously is going to be a position relative, because there's going to be a lot of things inside the dial that's going to be position absolute relative to the parent selector, and we need to have a width. Let's say for now 600 pixels, and I want it to be square because I want I want it to be round, so I want the container to be square. So we're going to use an aspect ratio of 1. Let's just see it. So we have like a, yeah, so this gray square, or it's not gray, it's white with an opacity. So this is our dial, right? So as for the width, we're going to do, as I said, a lot of calculation, and everything is going to be relative to the size of the width. So let's add a variable here. I'm going to call it size, not width, because it's the width and the height, so it's size. And let's say 600. And I'm not going to say 600 pixels, because again I want to do a lot of calculation with this variable, so we're just going to leave it as 600. And then the width, I'm going to do, I can't actually just do like size, because it's 600 what. So I do need to add a calc, our first calc for tonight, times 1 pixels. Okay, great. Okay, so let's start putting things inside of this dial, and this dial is going to be made out of a number of divs that are arranged in an arc, in a circle, and again everything is going to be very dynamic. So I'm going to create 24 divs. So let's say, oops, so we can say divs times 24, not din. Div is better. But as I said, I want to do the calculation according to the position of each one of those divs. So I do want to add to each one of those divs a variable of I. So the first one is going to be 0, the second one is going to be 1, and the third one is going to be 2, and so on and so on. I'm not going to do it manually. I already have Emmet here. So let's do style equals I $sign times 24. Great. So now I have 24 divs, and each one of them has an I, but the problem is that it's going from 1 to 24. Ideally, let's delete this one and copy a new one here. So it's supposed to be from 0 to 23. Forgot about it. Okay, now let's go back to the CSS. Oh, hi guys in the chat. I haven't seen you. Hi Roland. Hi Lee. Cubid. Yeah. Oh, thanks. We're gonna create like a dial graph, a 3D dial graph that we're gonna do a lot of weird things with it, and we're gonna use a lot of calc, a lot of math, because we're doing this week's CodePen challenge that is all about mathematics. So I'm just getting started right now. So I have, as I said, I have 24 divs here. So let's select these divs, and obviously these divs are going to be position absolute. For now, let's give it left 50%. We're going to change everything. Top 50%, and we're going to give it a width of 150 pixels. and the height of 150 pixels. So just so we can see it. Yeah, so this square, so actually it's 24 squares, they're positioned absolute, one on top of the other. But let's do a few things. So first of all, the div width, we're going to use calc to set the exact width. Again, according to the size of the container, to the size of the arc, and so on. So the div width, let's say for now 150 pixels, 150 again, not pixels. So we can use this here, just like we use it here. Only here it's supposed to be div width, and oh yeah, Emmet is great. I love Emmet more than I love Pug and other things. Yeah, but what we can also do, we can use this variable now here inside of the left, because we don't want it to be in 50%, we want it to be in the center. So we can use another calc here of 50% minus, so it's the div divided by 2 times 1 pixels. So actually, instead of this, we can actually just do times 0.5 pixels. My dog is dreaming and he's crying in the back. It's pass. Okay. Okay. Sorry, it's just it's cut my thread of thought. So okay, so this is the left and it's in the center. We can do the exact same thing actually to the width, height. Okay. Oops. Let's just copy this. So this is supposed to be the top, and this is the height, and then the height is, oops, not this. And then the height is this. So we can remove these two. And now everything is supposed to be in the center, and it's great. And if I'll change these variables, so everything is going to change accordingly. That's great. Let's make it red, so it would be more obvious. Okay. So now I want to move, as I said, I have 24 divs, and I want to set these divs in an arc, okay? So first of all, let's set a variable of an arc. So how much, what is the angle of the arc? Because it can be like 180 degrees, like a half a circle, or it can be a full circle, so 360 degrees, or it can be anything in the middle. So let's say for now 240 degrees, okay? So now I need to rotate, and I need to position each one of them on this arc. So I need to do a few things. First of all, let's set for this div, let's set an angle, and the angle. Oops. Yeah. Okay. So the angle, obviously, it's supposed to be the entire angle of the arc. So it's var arc. Yeah. Divided by the number of divs. So let's say div count, and I actually don't have this variable, so let's come here and say div count 24. And if you're going to change the number of divs later, so we're going to change this number, and everything is going to change accordingly, obviously. Okay, so I have div width, I have the angle. Yeah, but I need divided by div count times var I, right? This is the var that I set for each individual one. So in this case, the arc is 240 degrees. We have 24 divs, so it's 10 degrees each. So the first one is going to be 0 because it's 0. The second one is 10 degrees. The next one is 20 degrees. The next one is 30 degrees, and so on and so on. So we can take this angle right now, and we can use a transform of rotate. Let's do var of angle, and yep. And if we inspect it, we can see that the first one is it's staying, it's not rotating, and if I'm moving down, so each one is rotating a bit more. Okay, you can actually see it as I hover over the element. Okay, so now I need to translate them. I need to translate them up. Okay, so I need a negative value. So let's do a translate on the y-axis, negative value, and let's say var r, because it's the radius of this arc. So let's set this variable here. Oops. So the variable is actually, we know that this height is the size, so we know we need it to be half the size, right? So let's say var, we need calc obviously, not valve, calc. Var size divided by 2, okay? Oh yeah, time 1 pixel, obviously, so yeah, so actually do times 0.5 pixel again. Let's close this for now. But it's supposed to be in negative, so oops. Okay, so now let's bring the dev tools again. You can see the first one is this, the top one, and as far as I go down, we're going along the arc. But okay, so a few things. First of all, I'm pushing it a bit further than I'm supposed to. You can see that the divs are actually going outside of the parent element. So what I need to do is in this R, I need to add minus var div height, because I want to send it back. And it's supposed to be actually in parentheses, right? Yeah, okay, so now they're going the right way, but as for the angle, right now they are rotating. It's 240 degrees. If I'll set it to, let's say, 180, so it would be 180. That's good. But we need to set it half of the arc back, right? So in the angle, I'm gonna do minus var arc divided by 2. Okay, so now it's almost centered. Okay, if we'll do 180, maybe it would be better. Yeah, so we can see that the first one is okay, but the last one is not. They're not exactly aligned. So they're not exactly symmetric. So there's a few ways to solve it. Let's make it white again. So there's a few ways to solve it. One way is actually here in the angle, instead of divided it by the div count, we can divide it by the div count minus 1. Okay, so it would include the last one. So this looks okay, and even if I do like 240, 240, it would look okay. But the problem is that I want to use it as a circle, and if I'm going to put it on 360 degrees. So you can see that the first and the last eye, you can see the first eye is right here in the bottom, and the last eye, they're one on top of the other, and I don't want it. So the other way to solve it, let's change it back to 180. Instead of doing this angle, let's remove this. What we can do is the var I, we can set it like half a step more. So var I plus 0.5, half a step more. So now it's actually centered, it's actually symmetric, and and if I put it on 360 degrees, so I'll have the whole 24. So this, you can see that the last one is on the right and the first one is on the left, so there's no problem. So let's leave it like that. That looks great. And now what we need to do is actually calculate this div width. Okay, because I want those divs to actually touch each other, and I want it to be dynamically, because the angle of the arc can change. So how do I do it? What I can do, let's actually do something like this. Would it work? Yeah. So what I can do, what I need to calculate this this side, okay, this length. And so how do I do it? I'm not great at writing with my mouse, so I'm sorry. So we know that this height, this line, okay, from the center to the side, is half of the size, right? Because this whole thing is the size. We know this is half of it, okay. And if we draw another line from this point to this point, we can actually know this angle, right? Because this angle is the arc divided by the number of the by number of divs, right? So we know the angle. So how do I know from the angle and from the height? How do I know this this side? I actually put on Twitter. I made this. Yeah. Okay. Oh, but can you see it? Yeah. How do I point in it? Never mind. So as you can see, I made like a little cheat sheet of the sine, cosinus, and tang and everything on it. As you can see on the first line, that if you want to find the A, the green side, it's the A. If you want to find it, all you need to do is there's a few ways to do it. Is either tan of the alpha times B. The B is the height that we have, or sin alpha times C. But we don't have the C, we have the B. So what we're gonna use is the first formula. So it's yep. So it's like it's tan. Never mind. Forget about it. Let's go back to the code. Yeah. So the width is the tan of the angle, and the angle, as we said, is the var arc divided by the var div count. Okay, and we're gonna multiply it. We're gonna multiply it by var size divided by 2, half of the size. And yeah, that's it. And now the width is perfect. You can see that the divs actually touch each other, and it's fully dynamic. So if I change the arc to like 90 degrees, so there would be much less wider, less wide. Yeah, okay. And if I do like 290, so it would fit perfectly. And even if I'll do like a full circle, it would be perfect. Great. As for the div height, so the div height is like the thickness of our digraph. Actually, let's change it back to 240. So it looks great. You can set any number you want, obviously. But the thing is, if I set it to 50 and then I'll set the size back to small, something like 300, so it would look different. So we can actually set the div height as a calc, as a factor of the size. So let's do size times I don't know, let's say 3. You know what? Let's say 0.1. We need something much smaller. Yeah, okay, that's makes more sense. Maybe 0.2. Let's make it back to 600. Yeah, I want to add text in the middle, so let's for now let's leave it 1. Actually, because we're gonna do the next thing we're gonna do is clipping, so let's make it 2 again. Okay, so now you can see the divs, and you can see the square and those triangles in the middle. It's those actually things that the divs are overlapping one each other. So what we need to do before we're gonna go to the colors and the value is to clip each one of those divs. So how do I clip it? Yep. Yeah. Again, so I know this width of this top div, because this is my div, right? So what I need to do is calculate the width of this small div. Actually, it's not this one. It's from this middle to this middle. So I need to calculate the size of this div, because what I want to do, let's say that this is our div. What I want to do is actually I want to clip it like a trapezoid in the center. And in the last live I made, I show how to make trapezoid without clipping, but we're not going to do it today. We're just going to use simple clip path. But we need to know what this width is, because if this width is obviously 100%, right? Or just use pixel, but let's say that this is 100. So if we know that this is 80, so we know that we need to clip 10 on each side, because we know 100 minus 80 divided by 2. We know what the clip is that we need to do. So this is what we need to do now. Let's go to the. So okay, first we need to calculate this inner width. So let's copy this width, and we're going to call it inner, div width inner. And what we're going to do is here, instead of multiplying this tang with the half of the size, we're going to multiply it by var size. Divided by 2 minus. Oops. Where is it? Yeah. Divided by 2 minus var div height. Yeah, it's minus the height. Okay, so now if I haven't forgot anything, I forgot to close the parentheses. Okay, so now I have this inner width, and by the way, if we'll set this inner width here in the width itself, so we can see that they're touching in the bottom, so we know that we have the right value. Okay, this was just for a check. Okay, so what now we can come over here, and I'm actually going to do it in a different section. You will see why in a second. Let's add a clip path. I'm going to use a simple polygon. Okay, so again, I just want to show our polygon is going to have 4 points. Yeah, so we're going to do something at trapezoids like this. Okay, so this first point is 0, 0 because this is the top left. This point is 100, 0. This point is 100 minus the gap, or we need to calculate the gap, and this point is just the gap. Okay, so let's create another. Let's move it here, and let's create another. Let's call it div gap. It's the gap between those two divs, and it's actually do another calc. It's just the width, excuse me, it's the width, not the height. So var div width minus var inner width, and I need to do this whole thing divided by 2, if I'm not mistaken. Okay, so now we can use this this polygon. We said the first point is 0, 0, the second point is 100% 0, and then the third point is, let's do a calc, 100% minus var div gap 100%, and then just var div gap 100%. I haven't closed this calc, I'm sorry. And where did I go wrong? Oh, okay, this was not supposed to be here. No? I'm still missing something? Let's remove this calc for a second. The music went down just in the perfect timing. What am I missing? It looks okay. It looks okay, but it doesn't clip. It's not clipping. Let's be back for a second. Let's oh, you know what? I forgot to do. Okay, so the gap is obviously, yeah. Okay, so this is my problem. The gap is not in pixels, and I'm doing this in pixels. So it's supposed to be again times 1 pixel, or again, let's do it. It's much easier, times 0.5 pixels. So now, yeah, okay. So now you can see that this every div is clipped, and there's almost you almost can see the seams between them. Great. Okay, so now let's talk about color, about how do we make this thing actually look like a dial graph. And we're gonna do it using background image, excuse me. So if we're gonna do a simple background image, oh, I'm losing it in the chat, sorry. Yeah, Lee got it right. I forgot that the div gap is a number, and I'm sorry. Okay, so I'm gonna do a simple linear gradient. Let's do something. If I do simple like red to blue, so it would look something like this. Yeah, but we need to do it to right. Oops, comma. Okay, so now I have each one of them going from red to blue, red to blue, red to blue, and so on. Looks okay. And if I give a value to the red, let's say like 50%, so now the red is going to start at 50% and then it's going to fade to the blue. But if I'm going to give the blue a 0, yeah, so now I have a full stop. So if the red is at 20%, so it's slow. If it's an 80%, it's like this. And obviously, if it's 0, so it's all blue, and if it's 100%, so it's all red. So great. So now we can actually take this value, and we can say that the easy thing is to do like var value times 1%, right? Because the value is from 0 to 100. So let's just multiply it by 1%. And now I can actually set the value and I can see things change. That's great. That's not the diagram that we wanted to see yet. Okay. What we need to do is, before we're going to deal with that, I want to deal with the value itself, because right now the value is from 0 to 100. But what's going to happen if the mean value is 56 and the max value is 200? So even if the value, let's say it's 130, because it's a bit in the middle, so now it's not going to look the way we want it. Okay, what we want to do is actually map the value according to the min and max value to just to a specific range. Let's say a number from 0 to 1. And then when you change the min, the max, it won't change the way the dial graph is going to look. So what we're going to do right here inside of the function, we're going to create another const. Let's going to call it new value. And the new value, we're going to take the data value. This is the way we're going to do it. Yeah, we're going to subtract the min value from the value itself, and we're going to divide it by the range. And the range is max value minus min value. So now, instead of data value, let's set the new value. So now actually we can see, inspect, yeah, so now we can see that the value is always a number from 0 to 1, no matter what the min and max. Okay, and even if it's 0 to 100, it still be, let's change, yep, it still be oops, let's inspect it. Yeah, you can see it from 0 to 1. Let's leave it right now as is, but you can change it as much as you want. Let's change the value back to 30. Let's go back to the CSS. And obviously here I need to multiply it now at 100%, because it's a number between 0 and 1 and not 100 and 0. Okay, so now we're back at the same place we were earlier. But we don't need the entire, where it is, this linear gradient. We don't want it to be in a single div. We want it to be in the entire grid, in the entire dial, right? So what we need to do is actually set the background size, because right now the background size is 100 by 100. But what we need to do is set the x size. Let's do calc of 100 times var div count. Div count. So now the size is okay. So now the size is much bigger, and now it's always red, just right, unless right here in the beginning. So they're all reacting like the first one. The first one is actually reacting right? 0, it's okay, and the first one is great. But we need to actually offset this the background just a little bit for each one. Actually, instead of 100%, what we can do is just set the div width. I think it would be more accurate. And then we can set the background position of x to calc. What we need to do is take the div width times var I, because we need to move the first one width, the second one 2 width, and so on and so on. Again, times 1 yeah, 1 pixel, because it's negative, it's to the other side. And if I haven't forgot anything, I must have because it doesn't really work. Just a sec. Yeah, that's okay. Oh yeah, I multiplied this by 1 pixel, but I also need to multiply this by 1 pixel. Okay, and now we have a very basic dial graph. So I know if you are in the chat, you're probably thinking, okay, I could probably do it with conic gradient in like 10 minutes, in like 5 minutes. It would be much easier, obviously, but now let's go 3D. Yeah, so what we're gonna do, I'm gonna comment this whole clip path and the background image just for now. We're gonna move back to this side, and back to our HTML. What I want to do is I want to add to each one of those divs, I want to wrap each one of those divs with 4 I elements. So again, I could do it with Emmet as we said earlier, or I can just say I. So this is 1 I inside the div, 2, 3, 4. Okay, that's it. So now let's go here to the I. And this I is obviously going to be position absolute because it's positioned absolute to the parent. I'm going to give it an inset 0, so it would be the same size. Let's see it. Let's give it a background color. Let's make it red again. Yeah, okay. Now we can see it. And now what I can do. So okay, let's start moving these eyes before we're going to start with the clip path and everything. So let's start with the first one. I'm going to start with the nth child of 1. The first one is easy. I'm just going to transform it, and I'm going to use a translate. I'm going to push it forward. So I'm going to do translate z, and so again, how much I need to move it? I need to move it half of the width. So the width is actually the same as the height. So I'm gonna do it div height divided by 2 divided times 0.5 pixels divided by 2 times 1 pixels. Yeah, okay. So we can actually already see it, but just so we can see it better, let's create a scene class because we wrapped everything with a scene, and we're gonna give it a simple animation. Of rotate, let's say 30-second, infinite. I want to run infinitely. Let's say linear. So the keyframes for this is gonna be very simple. We're just gonna say 2. Rotate, and I want to rotate on the y-axis just 1 turn. Yeah, okay, so now we can see it move, and just so we can see it, this side here, we can see that it moves. That's great. Let's go to the second one. The second one, I'm going to do the same thing, but before I'm going to translate, before I'm going to push it forward, I'm actually going to rotate it on the x-axis 90 degrees. So let's do rotate x 90 degrees, and you can actually now see it. It's here in the outer of this circle. You can see it here. Let's make it like really red, like 9. Maybe. Yeah, okay. And the third and the fourth, so it's pretty much the same idea. I'm just going to rotate each one of them 90 degrees more. Okay, so now I have. Now, yeah, okay. And okay, normally when I work with 3D elements, I want to make each one of those elements pop out. So I normally use a box shadow, inset box shadow. So something like 20 pixels gray inset. Oops. Yeah, but yeah. Why don't you? Let's make it black. Yeah, but in this case, I actually don't want to use it. We can remove this white now, and we can remove this white background. Yeah, So in this case, I don't want to use it because I want the front side and the entire sides to be like, I want it to look like one element. So instead of box shadow, we can use background image. We can use a background image for pretty much everything. Let's do linear gradient, and if I do something from black to transparent, so let's change this to white. Oops. Let's do something like this. Okay, so you can see the black on one side. Let's make it completely white. Okay, you can see the black on one side, but instead of just removing the transparent closer, if you want the shadow to be closer, it's better just to move the hint in the middle, the color stop. So let's say like 5%. So it would look, yeah, so now the color stop is much better. And actually now I can copy it and do, let's say this one is 0 degrees, just for readability. And this would be 180 degrees. And maybe we can add some sort of opacity. Yeah, of course you can play around with it. And let's add a few opacity to the background itself. Yeah, okay. So now we need to add, we need to clip again the front. The front and the back and the bottom. Let's start with the front. The front is it's very easy. All I need to do is take the clip path that I've used on the original element. I'm just gonna put it here, and now in the front side, yeah. So there's no more seams in the front side. That's great, and I can theoretically take this and copy it to on the third one. That's the back, but now it would actually look different because, whoops, I haven't done this. Yeah, so because it's already rotated on the x-axis 180 degrees, so it's flipped upside down. So what we need to do here is just rotate the y-axis. So here the 0 is 100%, and here the 100% is 0. Okay, now let's talk about the bottom. Actually, we already know the width of the bottom because we already calculated the inner width. But I don't want to give it a width because it's currently have an inset, and I don't want to set the width. What I want to do is actually I'm going to give it. I'm going to give it to it's the fourth one. This is the bottom one. I'm actually going to give it scale, because I want to scale it, scale x. Let's do var scale, and we're going to set this variable. We're going to add a calculation for this variable right here. We're going to say calc. So what we need is actually the ratio between the top and bottom, between the div and between the top and bottom div width. So this is var. Excuse me, this is where it is there, div width inner. This is what I forgot. Over var div width. Okay, so now I have the ratio between them, and I'm putting this ratio as a scale. So now that's great. So now I don't have any seams, not on the bottom, not in the sides, not on the top, and it looks great. And all I need to do, let's move this background size and position as is. Let's just remove the comments. We can delete this. We don't need it. Oh, but I do need this background image. I already have a background image here, so I'm just going to copy this linear gradient here to do a new line. Now we can remove this. Yep. And now, oh, this obviously don't need to be blue. It's supposed to be transparent. Yeah. And now when I change the value, when I set the value, I have a 3D element, a 3D dial graph. And I now want to look at it as a full circle. Oh yeah, it's gonna look great. Yeah. Okay, so few more things. We're not done. We're not even close to be done. Before the text, let's talk about the color. Okay, so I want the color to be like in a range according to the value, obviously. So I'm gonna add I'm gonna set the hues, but I'm gonna set a hue start. Let's say 60. 60 is somewhere around the yellowish. And we're gonna set a hue end of 200. Let's say it's blue. Okay, so the hue, the calculated hue, it's obviously just a number between them according to the value. So how do you calculate it? Let's put it here. So what I need to do is let's do var. I want the entire range. So I want the var of hue end minus var hue start, and I'm gonna multiply it by var value. Okay, and I'm gonna add the var hue start. Okay, let's move this one back to 240. So now I can take this hue and I can create another element. I'm going to create this element inside of this of the div, and I'm going to show you why in a second. Let's say it's an HSL, because I want to use this variable of a hue inside the HSL. For now, let's do, we don't need this comment. 100%, 50%. And okay, so now it's, I need to set this color obviously instead of this red. So var color here. Yeah, okay, so now when it's yellowish, as we said in the start, and if we're gonna go, if the value is gonna go bigger, so it would be greenish and blue in the end. So if we're gonna do the range, this is the hue start. If we're gonna do from like say 0 to 360, so it's gonna be the entire all of the colors. So it's gonna start at it's gonna start at red, and it's gonna go through all of the colors until it's going back to red when it's gonna end. But if you want a classic color gradient, so you can use just 0 to 120. 0 is red, 120 is green. So it's gonna, when it's low it's red, when it's high it's green. This is the classic, and it's go through orange, yellowish, green. And this is the classic range. We're gonna leave it like this. But the reason I've done the color here, because I actually want to add another variable called light. We haven't done enough calculation yet today. And this light, I want to be darker in the beginning and lighter in the end. So what we're gonna do, let's do var of I over var of div count. So now I have just a number between 0 and 1. Let's multiply, we don't need this. Let's multiply it by, let's say, 50%. So this is going to be the entire range, and the lowest number is going to be 25%. So now I can take this variable, the light variable, and use it inside of this color, var light. And yeah, so now you can see that it's darker when it's low, and when it's brighter in the higher values, like this. Yeah, that looks great. Let's move it back to the high to 1, because the next thing I want to do is text. Yeah, so LCH is, I should use LCH. We should all use LCH in the near future. I don't feel comfortable enough yet. I just feel more comfortable, specifically in these live sessions, just doing HSL. I know it works. I know how it works. I can expect the end result, so this is why I use it. But you're right, the future is LCH, and I should use it. Maybe I'll do just a video about that. Yeah, but for now, let's talk about text for a second. Let's make this white thing a bit more transparent. Just a bit more dark. Yeah, darker. Okay, so let's go. We don't need this box shadow. Is there anything else we don't need anymore? Okay, so let's talk about text. I want to add a text, the value. Actually, let's change this. Instead of this, let's say from rotate y minus 0.125. No, let's say minus 30 degrees. It's just easier. To plus 30 degrees. And then we're going to add, let's say that is in, out, alternate. Yeah, so now just alternating back and forth instead of just doing the entire rotation. Thanks. Okay, so let's talk about text. We don't need the scene. So okay, so what we can do, the easiest thing is just do a pseudo element. So let's add a pseudo element. Let's do an after. And I can set the value in the content. So if the value is 30, I can just set it to 30. Just so we can see it, let's change the font size to 100 pixels. We're going to change the font size again later. Okay, but obviously I want this number to change when I change the value, obviously. But here's the thing, I can't do like this value. Okay, value. For two reasons. First of all, the value is not this number. The value is just a number from 0 to 1. So this number can be any number, and I can calculate it, but the easier way is just to set another property of text value with the original value, with the data value. Okay, so now I have text value. But here's the thing, I still can't use it. I still can't come here and use text value because the text value is a number, and you can't set a number to the content. So you can't, you can, by the way, you can use attribute, or you can use, just set it inside like something like that. This is supposed to work, I think. Yeah, this is supposed to work, but this is, I'm going to show you just a better, I don't know if it's better, just a method with pure CSS is by using counter. You can use the counter reset, just give it a name, any name, just let's call it a value, and then the number as the reset, and you can use the content, the counter in the content. So you have content of value. So now, yeah, no, okay, 30, and when I change it, it changes, no problem. Okay, let's now let's do a position absolute inset. Oops, instead of 0, I'm gonna give it a display grid and then a place items of center just to put everything in the center. Anything else I want to do with this after? No, the font size. So the font size obviously needs to be, again, another factor of the size itself. So let's do calc of the var size times, let's say 1 pixel. That's gonna be huge, probably. Yeah, let's say 0.5 pixels. And actually, let's add, talking about CodePen, there's great assets in CodePen, including fonts. Let's change it to Roboto. Okay. So I can copy the import right here. I'm going to put it in the top of my page, and I can copy the font family right from here to the body. Yeah, so now I have a new font. That's great. And That's okay. That's okay. So okay, that's text, and that text also it updates automatically, no problem. But I want to make it 3D, and I want to paint it. I want to make it colorful, obviously. So how do I make it 3D? Right now I have one text. The one text is the after, and it's the after of the dial itself. So instead of the dial itself, let's add excuse me, let's add a span, and I'm gonna add the same thing with the I. Oops, I $, and let's say we have 12 spans. Okay, again, you can change it later on as much as you want. So now in the div count, let's add a span count, because we're going to use it obviously in a second. So that's 12. And now right here beneath the div, let's add the span. And the span, obviously there also needs to be position absolute with an inset 0, but now I can take this entire thing and move it inside of this span. So now the after is not of the dial itself, it's the after of the span. So now I actually have 12 of these numbers, and I can offset them on the z axis. So let's do a transform. This transform is going to be translate on the z-axis. Let's do a var translate. Let's call it span translate. I don't know why. So let's set it right here, and it's supposed to be a calc, obviously. So I want the width, the total width, to be the same width of this of the element itself. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna take the var of the div height, because the div height, this is it's also the depth, and we're gonna divide it by the span count. So this is actually the amount of number I need to push each one of those spans forward. Actually, it's not. It's supposed to be span count -1. Okay. Oops. So and what I'm going to do, I'm going to multiply it by var I, because this is the number. And if I haven't forgot anything, oh, and obviously I need to multiply it by 1 pixel. So, what have I forgot? And oh, I forgot to put no, what am I missing? I don't need this entire parenthesis right here. Div height divided by div count -1. Translate z. What am I missing? Let's do inspect again. The div height. Oh yeah. Okay. So okay. Yeah. So I'm using the div height here, but the thing is that I'm setting the div height inside of this div. So I'm just gonna take this variable from here. I'm gonna cut it from here, and I'm gonna paste it. Let's say here. Doesn't really matter where. Oops. Yeah. Okay. So now that's working. So now we can see we have a 3D, but we need to color it. We need to do a few things. But first, it's actually just pushing it forward. I need to offset it also backwards half of the way. So let's move this again. I'm going to add this parenthesis. I'm going to say minus, oops, var div height divided by 2. Okay. And multiply each of them. Multiply all of this in 1 pixel. That's great. And now we can actually take this from the div. We can take the light and the color. We can copy them into the span. Okay. And we can just set it color, because this is the text color. So let's just use the color itself. Let's make it brighter. Let's say 15. Darker, I meant. Yeah. Okay. So now I have. So now the number obviously updates when I move the value. It also changed the number, the color according to the value. Actually, it looks great now. Okay, now the problem is if I put it on 100, maybe it's too big. But I actually want to use it, as I said, as a loading, so it won't get it will never get to 100 because 99 and then I'm moving out. So just let's set the arc to 360. Yeah, so it's gonna start at 0 and then it's gonna move up, loading, and I can add a percentage sign, and I can add a percentage sign using a before if I want to, or just anywhere. I'm not gonna add the percentage sign maybe. Yeah, but this is the general idea. One more thing, let's instead of this, let's change it from transform. So rotate 0 degrees, rotate X 30 degrees, rotate 360 degrees. So what I'm gonna do, I actually talked about it in the last live session. I'm rotating it 360 degrees and then rotating it back, but I'm in the middle, in the middle that I'm rotating it, I'm also rotating it on the x-axis, so I can see it, so I get this effect that I get it from every direction. Now we can actually change it back to linear and maybe make it a bit longer. Yeah. And let's change the background. Instead of just a solid color, let's make it an image of a radial gradient. We're going to start with black, but we're going to go to a bit lighter color. Let's make it a circle. Circle, let's say after 500 pixels. Yeah, kind of, this is what I was aiming for. Yeah, any questions, guys, in the chat? Opinions, what do you think? I've used all the math I could. There's a lot of calcs here, specifically here. And yeah, and everything changed. You can do how many number of divs you want, how many number of spans you want. You can do whatever arc you want. This can be 90 degrees. This can be 10 degrees even if you want. Yeah, obviously you wouldn't want to do it like this. But it works. But you can do whatever type of arc you want. You can use whatever size you want. You can change the sizes. You can change the height. Let's make it a bit wider. Yeah. Looks nice. Thanks, guys. Thank you. And that's it. I'm gonna clean up the code a bit, and I'm gonna post everything in later on today. Thank you all for joining me. I hope you had a good time. I had a great time doing the CodePen challenge. If you like it, let me know. I would love to do more CodePen challenges. Yeah, thanks again, and see you in the next live. Bye for now.